Steve Orr and Brian Neiman.
WBAL News Radio 1090, FM 101.5, and the WBAL radio app.
$2 billion. That is the operating budget for Howard County for the fiscal year 2023. It includes $1 billion for the public school system. We are pleased to be joined now by the Howard County executive. Get a little bit more detail about what's going on, where the money exactly is going. Dr. Calvin Ball joins us now. Great to have you on, Mr. County Executive.
Good morning.
So it's a huge number, obviously, and it's being done without raising taxes. Give us kind of a rundown of what you've done here and where the money is going.
Well, I am so excited to put my proposed budget forward because we all know that budgets are manifestations of our priorities. And so we have in education the largest increase in at least 20 years. And the first time our school system has gotten a proposed budget of $1 billion. And that includes $84 million new dollars in state and county funding with an overall increase of nearly $70 million.
Dr. Calvin Ball, once again, is on board with us, Howard County Executive. And the reason that 20 years since an increase like this rings for me, County Executive Ball, is because I was around for Thornton when we saw a huge infusion of money back in 2002, 2003. So a lot of people would ask, okay, the money sounds great, but how about where it's spent? Because if Thornton had been successful, we really wouldn't need the blueprint for Maryland's future.
Well, I think that that's a very fair conversation to have. In my proposed budget, we're supporting the addition of about 150 positions to really focus on our most vulnerable population. We're putting much more money in instruction, in special education, because we know that, yes, you can put money at it, but if you target it appropriately, you can help the most vulnerable be successful.
So I'm a little slow on these things sometimes, so help me out. So your proposed budget of $1 billion, do you get to dictate to the Howard County Board of Education exactly where that money goes, or do they have more of a say in where it goes?
That is an excellent question. The Board of Ed is a separately elected body. They're governed by the state. We cannot line item dictate. However, I can put it in categories. So by putting it in certain categories, like instead of, filling up administration with most of the money,
right,
I put a lot of it when I can in special education and instruction. Now, within special education and instruction, they will be able to decide where they want, and I can't control that.
County Executive Ball, when it comes to where our kids are, once again, I know you don't control the school system, but we have this conversation with County Executive Glassman and County Executive Olszewski, so I have to ask you, we know our kids are a little behind because of the pandemic. Are you aware, beyond the money, where our kids are now? Like how much, you're an educator, how much do we need to do to catch them up?
I'm very concerned about our kids being behind. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I put nearly $2 million into what we call our HOCO Strives initiative, and that's $750,000 of recurring dollars. But I put an extra $1 million and some change just to focus on trying to get our kids caught up. It's a summer scholars program. It'll help them get right back on the right footing because a lot of our kids did fall behind, and unfortunately, a lot of our most vulnerable kids with special disabilities, kids on free and reduced meal, and kids of color.
Of the $1 billion, how many new schools will be built with that money?
Great question. So the billion is operating in capital. I put about $106 million for school construction with state and county funds. I fully funded their request. And so not only will that help move our schools forward, like a Talbot Springs replacement, a renovation at a high school, but also finalize our brand new High School 13, which will be the first new high school in Howard County built since 2005.
Wow.
And in addition to new schools, I wanted to focus on renovation because, of course, everybody loves the new hotness, but we need to make sure every one of our students has, and educators has the best teaching and learning ability also. So I put about $30 million in systemic renovations to help our most loved schools.
We're speaking with the county executive from Howard County, Dr. Calvin Ball. And County Executive Ball, when it comes to public safety, you have increased your budget by the most in a decade, you say here, by nearly $11 million. Now, we know that Baltimore City has its challenges, but the Democrats now that are running for governor, many of them have been on our show, and they talk about how 11 of our 24 jurisdictions have seen increases in crime. Not to the degree of Baltimore City, of course, but an increase. Talk about why you felt a need to increase your public safety budget.
Well, of course, Howard County is home to Columbia, which has been named the safest city in America. But just because we have the safest city doesn't mean we have no crime. And people should not only be safe, but feel safe. And while we've seen increases of crime around the country, I'm responsible for Howard County. And so that's why I put nearly $4 million just to focus on 24 new additional police patrol officers. This is the largest increase in sworn personnel in about 15 years. And so that's important, making sure that we put money into our fire department. You know, we saw, especially during the pandemic, the importance of our first responders. And so this funding will have 36 new sworn firefighters and emergency personnel, vehicle equipment, supplies, because we know that people not only want to feel safe when it comes to, you know, the crimes, but also we're still in the midst of health issues. And so I thought that it was important to invest in public safety, and I will always stand by that.
So, you know, you guys actually are advertising on our radio station right now for police officers. I am curious as to how the recruitment is going and how many officers you are short right now.
And how many are you taking from the city?
Well, we're right at capacity, but not only do we want to make sure that we have sufficient police officers to address things like community policing, human trafficking, but police officers have been struggling too. You know, they have mental health challenges. They've been on the front lines. They deserve some time off to have weddings, to, you know, raise their children, to go on vacation here and there, because we know that when we look out for the physical and mental health of our first responders, not only are they able to live their best lives, but they can even serve us better.
Now, your $2 billion budget reflects kind of where you're going long term. Mayor Brandon Scott has been on our show. He's coming on Thursday, as a matter of fact, has outlined where the $641 million that's coming from ARPA funds are going. What about your federal monies? I know a lot probably is one-time expenditures, but how much money are you dealing with in Howard County as relates to the ARPA monies?
Great question. So we got about 10% of what my brother Brandon Scott, Mr. Mayor, got, and we got about $64 million. It's going to come in two different phases. We got the first phase, so about $30 million, and we'll hopefully get the next phase this summer. We have focused a lot on business support. For example, a lot of our businesses struggled through the pandemic, and we wanted to make sure that they could keep employees and keep employees safe. So helping our businesses rebound, housing initiatives, you know, when we wanted to address foreclosure prevention, rental assistance to keep people in their homes, and then, of course, keeping food on the table. People have struggled so much. So a lot of our ARPA funding went toward those initiatives. And then we worked with our school system to help address a bus driver shortage, to give a bonus to educators, and just help those critical systems that address our quality of life continue to run magnificently right here in Howard County.
Any new roads or, for drivers out there, any benefit in this budget for those who are constantly driving around, if you will?
Well, I am very excited that we have $12.5 million in road resurfacing, the highest in 8 years. You know, I talk with people oftentimes who travel throughout the region. We've got about 2/3 of our workers going either to the Baltimore region or the D.C. region out of Howard County. And they talk about they can feel the difference when they get to Howard County because our roads are well maintained. But, you know, it takes about $12 million each year to move that forward. And so putting that $12.5 million should make it so that we do have that smoother road and we can protect cars and our environment.
So this $2 billion budget, no new taxes, right?
Correct. Correct. No new taxes.
So how were you able to get more money this year? Where were the revenues coming from? Where are the additional monies coming from this year?
So we've worked really hard over these last couple years during the uncertainty of COVID, tightening the belt when a lot of folks actually overspent. We wanted to make sure that we had sufficient levels to move forward. We increased our rainy day and a lot of our expenses to protect us into the future, and we allocated surplus dollars for things like road resurfacing and investing in these one-time dollars so that we knew that we could move forward. And during that time, I actually am asking for less GO bonds, which, there were times when in previous years we were up over $110 million in GO bond requests. I'm asking for less than 80 million because I know that, we have work to do, but I don't want to necessarily put everything off on the next county executive.
County Executive Ball, one of the things when the whole body camera was introduced was the expense of this. You've included in your budget an additional $1.2 million to expand your body camera program for all your police officers. Is that going to cover everybody now?
Yes. Now that $1.2 million will be expanded to all sworn police officers and sheriff office personnel because we know that our community wants transparency and we want to make sure that we're protecting everyone involved because sometimes people misremember facts. And so having body-worn cameras, I think, protects everybody.
Very good. It's always good to have you on. We appreciate your time as always.
You're a ray of sunshine, County Executive.
I appreciate you both, and I hope you make a terrific Tuesday.
Thank you very much.